Hey!
Hi, this is Dr. Christine.
And Dr. Colin.
And we are your co-hosts for the exciting new podcast called
Love, Scrubs, and Stories,
where we dive deep into the world of dating and relationships and go beyond the people wearing the white coats, the scrubs, and the stethoscopes.
Come join us on this journey where we engage in dialogue and share stories of love, heartbreak, resilience, and triumphs. And we also navigate our professional lives with our hearts on our sleeves.
Please remember to subscribe and hit the notification button to stay up to date on all future episodes.
And we look forward to seeing you inside. Hey! Hey guys, welcome to the Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today. My name is Dr. Colin Zhu, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Dr. Christine Nguyen. Say hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. If this is your first time, we talk about dating and relationships from the perspective of healthcare professionals, our wonderful audience. And whether you're single, you're committed, or somewhere in between, this podcast is for you. And we have so many amazing episodes to date. And we have yet another one that I think would be quite fascinating for y'all today. So, Colin, what are we talking about today?
Before we go into that, guys, if this is your first time, hit that, subscribe button and tell your friends. What we're talking about today, I think we're talking about the topic of money, finances, all the things that make us super, super uncomfortable.
Exactly. It is undoubtedly a topic that we all tiptoe around, because I know certainly for me, growing up, it's not something that we talk about very much. Certainly, I think that has, extended into my adult life, where the discomfort of talking about money, especially in relationships, which, has been something that I've encountered. How about you, Colin? How has it been for you?
I think culturally similarly, it's also it's a very heated argument. Money can be, I come from the world of food, right? Food is medicine. So, just like food, it can be a very emotional thing, right? Money can be very emotional. We grow up with different viewpoints, different perspectives, right? And it could be, used as a medium for a lot of different things, gifting, donating, ways of showing affection, right? But it could also mean, it's a main transaction, main medium for businesses, right? For that exchange of services and products. But when it comes to dating and relationships, that's very interesting. Let's start off with this first question, which always has some sort of, XYZ comments afterwards, right? Is, you're on your first date, Christine. Okay. What, who pays?
Who pays? Oh my God.
Who pays? Is it, I'm not
the
gonna
age-old question. Who pays?
The age-old question, who pays first, right? Why, right? And why not? Are there pros and cons, right? Or do we, just stick with chivalry and just, keep going with that?
Yeah, exactly. And we talk about it. I think we've talked about it to death, and then it surfaces again. And it's, and there's always new perspectives. And especially in this world of modern dating, it's the balance has sort of shifted now, where the thinking in the past has, traditionally has been the guy, the masculine person pays. But nowadays, I think that there's, you can get the full spectrum of it could be the person who asked that person out. It could still be that traditional, gender kind of take on it in terms of the guy paying for it. Or in this, day and age, women are also feeling like they would be more comfortable on a date, especially if we're talking the first date, right? So it also depends on which date we're talking about, whether it's the first date, the second date, or the third date. And so I know a lot of women would actually be more comfortable paying or splitting the bill, going halfsies.
From your point of view, what is the reasoning for, if we're talking about a heterosexual relationship, right, or dating situation, what is the viewpoint of women wanting to not pay, maybe split in half, versus those that don't want to pay?
Yeah, I think for some women, it's that feeling of not wanting to owe anything. And I think especially in situations where they feel like perhaps this is not the ideal match, the chemistry is not there. And so they don't want to, to owe their date anything, or that perception of I don't know, sometimes maybe women feel that like sometimes it, like you said, right? Could be money can be feels like very transactional. Like if you, pay for this, then I may be expected to like give something in return. And
Hmm.
so,
Like a
depends on
hug,
how.
like a hug.
Yeah. And so it could be very uncomfortable. So it depends on each one. And again, like, really this, I think I can't wait until our guest talks about this. Like all this kind of goes back to our like personal beliefs and our experiences or our childhood regarding how we feel about money and how
Hmm.
we, in our adult life and especially in relationships and how do we, handle discussions about money, especially in relationships, whether it's the beginning phase, like going on a date or two, or you go the distance and, perhaps in a marriage or, in a partnership, then, you're commingling finances. And so these are all, money is a very important topic to talk about. And so that's why it comes up quite a bit, especially in the WCR White Coat Romance group where, every now and then it comes up because, this is something, because being high level healthcare professionals, we make a decent living and depending on who our partners are, and, we definitely have to think about that, whether or not, when you're talking about match, right? It's not just about love, as we all know, right? You have to think about other factors of compatibility, which also includes financial compatibility as well. What do you
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
Colin?
There's so many things to like unpack with this one. I think talking about finances during dating is very different than, a longer term relationship, and or marriage, right? Because that's when you start to become more committed to someone, right? And intermingling, things, right? And so that's to me, it's a different discussion. I'm curious to know for you, when do you bring in financial talks? Do you, when you're dating them like 3 months, 6 months, right? Not even talking about marriage. We're talking about like, oh, you've just been going out for 3, 6 months, a year. Like when is a good time, to talk about it? Yeah. In this day and age, we have, women that are billionaire CEOs, right? We have 2 income households. We have women full force as opposed to 4 or 5 decades ago. So, there's a different
It shift. Yeah.
mentality going into
Mhm.
this, right? I personally think there's no right or wrong. I think it's a dance and interplay between the two people, in my
Exactly.
opinion, right? There's no
Exactly.
right or
I
wrong with
agree.
this. So
Exactly. Yeah. I
yeah,
wholeheartedly agree. So,
yeah.
yeah, lots of questions. And I think, this is going to be a fascinating discussion. So, shall we bring on our guest? I
Sure.
think
You
it's
want to
time.
introduce
Yeah.
them?
Yes, I sure
You want to
will. And
introduce?
so
All right.
I'm really excited to introduce to you all our amazing guest. He has embarked on a very unique journey through medicine and personal finance. Dr. Logan Foltz graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Medical School in 2010 and completed his psychiatry training at the Medical University of South Carolina in 2014. He then embarked on a new adventure working as an inpatient psychiatrist in Utah until just about 6 months ago. Now, he's based in Charlotte. Dr. Foltz works part time from home and spends his free time mountain biking, road biking, backpacking, as well as paddleboarding. He considers himself an expert on traveling solo on a shoestring budget and has completed solo bike tours in France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, England, Australia, Iowa, and Colorado. Oh my, so impressive. While he's not a registered financial advisor, Dr. Foltz has been passionate about financial freedom since his residency days. He began moonlighting during his third year of residency and continued to do so for 5 years post-residency until the COVID-19 pandemic altered his plans. So during this time, he completed the educational courses required for the Certified Financial Planner designation and successfully passed the exam. Woohoo! In addition to his part-time telepsychiatry work, he serves as a student loan advisor for Attend Holdings. He is further pursuing his passion by currently studying for the enrolled agent certification to become an expert on taxes. So welcome to the Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast, Logan. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me. That was quite an introduction.
Well, you are an impressive person. So, wow, so many things here to unpack. Thank you for joining us today. And Logan, so you are part of our White Coat Romance community. And I started noticing you in the group whenever we talk about money. And so, this topic comes up, every now and then, And I always really love like that you sort of, chime in and always kind of share your perspectives. And I really appreciated all that you did for the group. And I was like, he seems to know quite a bit about money and finances. So I think, that's when I reached out to you and said, would you be open to further helping our greater audience on this Love, Scruffs, and Stories podcast and share with us, your knowledge, your passion about personal finance. So thank you again, Logan.
Well, yeah, thank you for building the WCR community. It's been awesome. And I love those discussions because I learned so much about other people. I'm a psychiatrist, so I find human behavior intrinsically fascinating. And yeah, I'm not an advisor and I don't think I'm a relationship expert either, but I do love talking about money. So hopefully I can provide some information that people find helpful.
To start off, Logan, I would love to know what are some key experiences that happened and transpired for you that you decided, let me go more into personal finance, right? Because I wish personal finance was taught like from kindergarten, right? I mean, don't we all were, right? Understanding, instead of a grade point average, what our credit score was, right? And all these different things 100%. That, when you come out and you join the workforce, you just kind of feel like, I didn't really get equipped with anything, right? So what happened for you? What are some key moments that happened for you? You're like, you know what? I'm going to take a bunch of detours, if you want to define them as detours and, just dive, knee deep.
Good question. So I think we're going to explore this a little bit more later when we talk about our experiences, our childhoods, and just what shapes how we think about money. So I don't know for sure what got me like so hooked on personal finance, but I think, I think I saw my dad retire when he was 55, and then he was so gratified and happy over it. I think that left a mark. And then around the time of I was finishing college and starting medical school, there was this blogger called Mr. Money Mustache, and the headline was this blogger retired at 30 and lives in Colorado, and he saved up $1 million. And here's how you can do it too. And I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty rad. I enjoy my free time. I like traveling and I want to be this guy. So kind of what kicked it off. And yeah, I mean, so then I just started reading a couple of books before Facebook got really big. And, and I guess I just got hooked. I wanted to know how long do I want to work? What do I really want to be doing? How much am I really going to enjoy medicine for a 45-year career? And so that was just kind of the genesis of it.
That's so amazing. So as you heard, Colin and I were talking, how money is like undoubtedly a topic that a lot of us, including myself, it's tiptoed around in relationships. And so, as we all know, it's deeply rooted in like personal beliefs and experiences. So what do you think are the foundations like to understand like our attitudes about money and some of the factors you think are at play here?
Yeah, well, I think they can evolve over time, but I think the first question you can ask yourself is, what is the purpose of money? What is it for? And it may sound like a really simple and straightforward question. It's to invest. It's to save for retirement. It's to pay my bills. But if you look at a more abstract sense, different people will answer that question differently. Some people will say the most important purpose of money is security. Some people think that the prestige and respect it brings is why they value money. Other people will tell you that it brings them a certain comfort, a lifestyle, and that's what really matters to them. For me, I think the best words I would use to describe what I value money for are optionality, just being able to do what I want, just having freedom, and also just being able to buy time. Over time, you realize that time is the most important commodity you have. That's something you can't get back, and you can always make more money. And so that's just why I've jumped in with 2 feet to learn about personal finance and just how it can help me live the life I want to live. Now, as I've studied this more and talked to experts just because I find it fascinating, there's some things you can do that are like more formal assessments and tools to understand your own attitudes about money. And they tie into behavioral health and financial planning. I think you want to first start by understanding that money is a tool, like just having millions of dollars or like a pool of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck doesn't really help anybody. You just want to know kind of what's the tool for. And that's when you start to ask yourself about what are your values and how does your money play into those? And there's a lot of ways you can ask that question of yourself and potentially a partner. I've learned about something called the three Kinder questions, because they were coined by a psychologist and financial planner named George Kinder. And I won't read them word for word because they tend to be kind of long. But the first one is, if you had all the money in the world, what would you want to do with it to create the life you want to live? And that tells a lot about you, what you find most important in life, and just what you might want to save for. And the two others, the second one, these are a little bit hypothetical, but the second question asks, what if you were going to die in the next 5 to 10 years? What experiences would you want to get to enjoy during that time? What do you want to make sure that you do during a limited time to have the best and most fulfilling life you can? So that's another way to find out what your most important values are. And the third one is, you can expect to pass away within 24 to 48 hours. And that's all the time you have to do everything you didn't have time to do. What do you really want to make sure you accomplish before you die? And what will you regret if you don't do? And so that one's powerful in a different way, because it asks people to think about their legacy. And so those are questions you can bear in mind as you try to understand yourself better, and also a date. And there's a whole book by George Kinder that gets in deeper into those questions. Another assessment tool I'll mention is called the money scripts. There's an acronym for it called the KMSIR, Money Script Inventory. And you can get that one online and take that test for free. It takes 10 minutes. And it's first helpful probably to explain what money scripts are. They're really just a framework for understanding how people conceptualize money and what makes them anxious about it. And if you take that test, you'll get a score that just ranks how high you are in certain categories, and there's 4 of them. One of them is money avoidance. And the one sentence summary for that is money is evil, money is bad, you don't want money. And the 3 others are money focus, which says that money is the solution to everything. The way to relieve that anxiety is to just keep on making money, and just make sure you never have enough. The third one is money status, which indicates that you think about money as something to show others, and that it translates to your self-worth. And people that have that, they can have a lot of spending problems, or they just have trouble holding on to money. And then the fourth one, which I relate the most to, is money vigilance. Being anxious about your money, just being afraid to spend it, and just always on the watch for threats to your financial security. So that's good to know, because there are certain things you can do to overcome those biases you have, and it goes into that in the money script report you can get. So that's something I've done that I found informative for kind of understanding my own attitudes. And there's a whole host of other things. I won't ramble on too much about different scales and tests, but I think attachment styles really matter too, because they really impact how comfortable you are talking about something as deeply personal and potentially vulnerable as your finances.
The Love, Scrubs, and Stories podcast is a collaboration and co-production between The Chef Doc and White Coat Romance.
The Chef Doc is a wellness platform that offers innovative approaches to thriving and offers a self-empowerment book, podcast series, on-demand masterclass series, as well as a brand new app. The app provides self-guided education such as food as medicine, self-care, and resilience. Coaching services are also available, whether you prefer one-on-one or group type settings. Please go now to your app store as well as Apple as Google Play to download for free.
White Coat Romance is a dating app for healthcare and health-related professionals and students in the US and Canada. It's a lively space where you can find love, companionship, and build meaningful connections with like-minded professionals. If you're single, go to the App Store and Google Play to download and join our vibrant community.
As we both serve these amazing communities, we also acknowledge the value of continuing education. Therefore, we're super excited to share an enticing opportunity with our listeners. Our episodes are continuing education eligible. That's right. You now have the opportunity to earn valuable credits while enjoying our content.
Rest assured, the episodes will always remain free, as we are committed to supporting our communities and amplifying the voices of healthcare professionals. To get a better understanding of how this works, the first 3 episodes are free to obtain, then the rest of the podcast episodes are at a nominal cost.
So you might be asking who can earn credits? Well, physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians associates, pharmacists, dentists, as well as dietitians and dietetic technicians.
If you find yourself in need of CE credits, we kindly ask you to consider directing your CE funds towards supporting our cause. Your contribution would greatly help us nurture our podcast production and continue to bring you valuable content.
We are deeply grateful for your support. From all of us here at Love Scrubs and Stories Podcast, thank you so much for choosing us.
And enjoy the rest of this episode.
Yeah. I would love to comment. I mean, there's so much to comment on this. Like, number one, the first thing you mentioned is money, looking at money as a tool, right? And so in a way, if you take a simple analogy like social media, right? Christina and I were both physician entrepreneurs, yourself included, right? And we have to use social media as a tool, right? But people can be consumed by social media, same way that money can consume them. So number one, I think establishing that framework first, because if you don't establish that for yourself, then, you can't really you can't really go deeper into the psychology in terms of like your beliefs and value systems with money, right? And your relationship with money. And then everything else, I think it's really cool to kind of figure that out for yourself, especially in my opinion, way before you date or have a relationship with someone, because you're going to be inevitably intermingling. And, I don't know, theoretically, can you not talk about money, when you're in a relationship? You can't, right? It's like very, very hard. And so it's like, you kind of have to have an idea. Like for me, like I love to understand my emotional intelligence, regulation capacity before I go in a relationship with someone, right? So the same thing with money. I have to have a good understanding of it. So Christine, what do you think about what he just said?
Yeah. Logan, that was really, really amazing. It's like so thorough how you broke that down and so much to like think about. So I thank you so much for that. And I'll definitely have to like check out those resources you talked about. Anyway, so I just wanted to like build this on further. So now obviously, you talked about the foundations of the personal beliefs and experiences and the factors. So now, in a like when we're evaluating like potential partners, what are some of the things we should be on the lookout for, and for these like quote unquote green flags that would indicate like a healthy financial attitude and responsibility? And at what point should we like start assessing these factors in a relationship? What do you think? Because that's essentially what we're talking about here, right? And so
so there's a lot to explore there too. I think that let me first talk about the green flags. So the green flags for healthy attitudes and money behaviors are really translate to green flags for entering in a relationship in general. I think a lot of the same positive traits will also lead to good money conversations and money behaviors and being able to work together. So first of all, it's good to get an idea for what someone's attachment style is. If someone is anxious, they'll feel threatened pretty easily. If someone's avoidant, they'll shut down. And it's pretty hard to have a fruitful money conversation if someone is in a defensive mode of some kind. So secure attachment, I would say, is a green flag for managing money with a partner. Other things like emotional stability, that's the greenest flag I can possibly think of. Someone who is skilled at, conflict resolution or just understanding how to respectfully disagree with someone. I think that's important because you're not going to be on the same page with everything, and you want to be able to hold space for someone else and get on the same page. But to do that, you have to be able to bridge your differences. So that's what I think about the green flags. And so how do you assess, how do you assess them? It's organic and kind of unfolds in the course of dating, but I think it is good to assess really early on. As soon as you feel comfortable broaching the conversation, I think you want to do that before you get too invested, because otherwise you get 6 months in and you find out your lifestyles aren't compatible and you can't manage money together. Well, then you're starting from square one. So I think the earlier you can have these conversations, the better, and obviously when you're just venturing in, they tend to be more superficial and less direct. But I think you want to find a good way to really assess someone's money attitudes, within the first.
What's your relationship with money? That's it.
Yeah. I just ask that. Just ask them. Yeah. Like what's your money script? Yeah. Or, what's your, how do you feel about the kinder questions? Yeah. But there's ways to do it. I can tell you some things that I've tried, some work better than others.
Yes. Yes, like
Yeah.
what's worked for you, and
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
So, I mean, a good way to broach it in a key way is just to say, what have been your best and worst financial decisions, and I mean, and starting with the best one, people will usually have an answer for that, or they'll think of an answer and they'll feel comfortable sharing it, and and if they are comfortable with that, then you can ask the follow up about their worst financial decisions. So that's one I go to. Also, it's not really a financial question, but when you talk about like how someone can handle conflict and hash out their differences with you, I like to find things I disagree with someone I'm dating. I try to like do a BS test. Ask let's just throw a chum in the water. But I like to ask someone's opinion on things, and if I disagree, just tell them and just see how they respond. They might have follow up questions. They might say they never thought about it. They might say, well, this is how I feel differently, or they might just tell you that you're full of it, And so if that's the case, then if they can't discuss things like that, if they can't disagree with you respectfully with something like that, then it's going to be probably hard to bridge the gap when you talk about your financial behaviors and your values.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, Christine, I would love to hear what you think, but it's kind of like, if you're in the dating phase, it's, for me, I try to avoid asking, what are your past relationships like? Why did you break up, or why did they break up with you? Because it may become too heated and too emotional really quickly, right? And you want to kind of establish some trust and rapport first and just do some lighthearted stuff. And the same way that money can be very emotional for some, I don't think it's something that I would ask, straight away. But if I'm dating someone for like 3-6 months and, if you're thinking about becoming more serious, then it is a good question. I think that's a great example. What is your best and worst experiences, in terms of money decisions, and, and even asking something like, how did your parents, deal with money, growing up? Like, what was that like? What was their relationship like? And that gives you like an idea of like what they, observed and view. Like, for example, Logan, you mentioned your dad retiring at 55. So that left an imprint on you, right? So you're like, oh, okay. So, it seems like dad, was a little bit more proactive than others, So I think that attachment perspective of having a glimpse of what they were like growing up, it will kind of give you a little bit of, foresight.
I think I think experiences in your formative years are so important, for shaping how you think about money. And there's a really good book about this that talks about all these things called Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel's the author. But in chapter one thing that he lays out in detail is how our financial experiences, in the sum total of human experiences, they're infinitesimally small. But for how it shapes us, it forms a majority of our thinking. So we're really shaped by what we experience in the economy and in our own families growing up. So I feel like I've been pretty fortunate. I've grown up in a really strong economy. I've been financially secure. I was able to get an education affordably, but a lot of people like my cousins who are in their 20s, they think higher education is a scam. And my grandmother, who grew up in the Great Depression, the one thing I remember most about her is that she would only buy things if they were on sale, and she would shop at yard sales, and she kept a refrigerator full of leftovers because she never threw anything away. So those are just some examples. But I think what I try to remember is that people behave in ways that are rational to them. It may not be rational objectively, and it may not make sense to you, but they're following how they think the world works, and doing whatever they need to do to make the best of how they perceive their situation.
Yeah. So, wow, really, really great points, Logan, and lots of things to consider for us, that we don't often think about. So thank you so much for mentioning them. So as what we were talking about earlier, it definitely, I feel like it is tricky to ask someone outright about, how they feel about money. I guess there's, like you said, there's different ways we can ask it, but I guess it depends on where you are in the relationship as well. So let's say we're looking for a partner who has similar like values and, is on perhaps a similar level of and how they feel about and understanding about money and finances as you are. So what would be like some good ways to assess like their level of like basic financial literacy and assess if like you're both on the same page when it comes to like money and finances? What do you think? Like someone's money mindset, I guess, in terms of how if it aligns with yours or not.
Yeah, I like that you called it a money mindset, because I think that's more important than like financial literacy in general. But I mean, this can be tricky too. I think that you can of course start by asking about their values in some way. You know, in one way that's worked for me is just asking, you know, if Jeff Bezos left a trust fund for you, what would you do with your life? You know, that's like the kinder question I asked earlier, the first one. So I think it's good just to understand their values first. And as far as basic financial literacy, the reason I think it's important to be in a relationship with someone who is at least in the same ballpark as you is because it's hard to build intimacy while you're teaching about something like that, especially if it's important. You know, it's hard to switch it between being someone's significant other and their like financial planner or their accountant. So I think it's important to, at least for me, to date someone who understands a little bit about taxes, who knows what a 401k is, you know, who knows that if, you know, when interest rates are high, you have more debt. I mean, just basic things like that. Although those are things I just kind of learn organically. I feel like it comes out. But the money mindset I think you want to evaluate is just, first of all, you can look at it as just how conscious are they of their financial situation, how much they think about it. Because I think it's hard if it's always on your mind, you know, if it kind of pervades all of your basic decisions, and someone else and the person you're dating is happy to sweep it under the rug because they're probably not going to want to talk about it as much as you. And they'll probably get tired of the constant decision making, you know, that it might just not be as important to them. So I think that's one thing to look at. But one other thing that I think differs between people, and it's not good or bad, but some people prefer to plan, understand how things are going to play out over time, and make the best decision considering their future and a long span of time. But some people are more like YOLO, you know, you only live once, you know, I just want to enjoy my money now. And if someone is, if you're really in touch with your future self, if you're trying to, you know, if you have a complicated plan that your financial decisions, that hinges on your financial decisions, I think it's pretty hard, you know, if someone is like, well, you know, I don't want to spend this money I don't want this money when I'm old. I want to use it now. You know, it's just a very different mindset. And that's something you probably want to gauge too. You know, and I think you get an idea for this anytime you try to make plans with someone. You know, some people are really comfortable with it, and some people just kind of have enough of it after a few minutes. So that's something I look for too.
So, hey guys, what's going on? I hope that you guys are enjoying this episode. We felt that this episode is so important, so much fun, so engaging that we decided to split it up into 2 parts. So be sure to check back to part 2 of this episode to listen to the rest of the conversation that we have with Dr. Logan.
Yeah, and it's going to be really worth your while. So we encourage you to hop on over and check out the second half of this episode.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to this channel. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you felt like this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know as well.
As a reminder, this channel does not offer medical advice. All opinions expressed are ours and our guests only. It is for general informational purposes only and does not replace professional healthcare services. Please consult your own healthcare provider for any medical issues you may have.
Until the next episode, whether you're in and out of your scrubs,
please remember to love yourself and others and lead with kindness.
Bye.